Hello, I am Jasmine, and I believe that I am experiencing some Kundalini issues. Very briefly, I'll just say that sometimes I get stuck to the mat during Shavasana. So, like, my head will feel like a bowling ball, and sometimes my hips may feel the same way. So, let's say that I go down for Shavasana and it's time to get up, and my head is like literally stuck to the mat. It feels really heavy and I cannot lift it for anything. So sometimes I need assistance. People will have to like grab my hands to pull me up. If I don't do that, then I'll just be sitting there forever and I'll end up like army crawling to the wall to try and help myself up. So I moved back home to Cincinnati in the summer of 2011, started practicing some yoga, and I ended up transferring to University of Cincinnati later that year. So I found that there were yoga classes at the rec center, and I went to them. So nothing too crazy. So basically, I was going to yoga all the time, as many classes as I could get to, and one time I went down into Shavasana with the intention of, like, well, not really with the intention, but like I was just like sitting there thinking about this resentment that I was holding on to from a recent breakup, right? So like I go down and I'm just like thinking about this resentment, and all of a sudden, the magnets that pick up cars, it was sort of like that sort of like energy just like pressed my body down to the floor, and my palms are sweating. I'm breathing hard and heavy. Right? So this happens, and then like this energy just like moves up and down my body really, really fast, and then whoo, I have a release or like an orgasm. So I'm like, what is that? I have no idea how long this was going on for, because when you're in it, you don't know how long things last. So I was still going to yoga, and each day the same thing happened, but instead of having the orgasm, it was like at the end of that sort of experience, like I would have like a release sort of like come out of like my belly, and then it would just sort of like climb up my body, right? And once I got to my forehead, it was like that resentment was gone, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this guy for who he is, and things were so much better, right? So this also happened around like late October, early November. I can't really pin down a date. I can go back and find them, because I sent a Facebook message to one of my yoga teachers who's also a Barbara Brennan healer. So I reached out to her and I was like, hey, Jen, like this is happening to me. Is this stigmata? Am I going to die? Do I have to give my life to Jesus? And then she was like, no, no, no. People practice yoga and meditation and stuff for years to try to have experiences like this. And she worked with me to help me gain some grounding. And like when she did her stuff, like I would see colors and stuff. Whatever. That's besides the point. So I would still go to yoga classes, and my nieces and nephews are here, and it's okay. Anyway, so I'm still going to yoga, and sometimes like I would just feel just like pressure. I just feel like pressure in my body, and I would really just like get this like so like I'm going down, and then I feel the pressure, and then this starts happening, and I guess like I kind of start panicking. I don't know what it is, but then like when I'm done, I would get stuck. Like I'm getting stuck to the mat. And I also want to share like my magic song with you. So because like the first time that this ever happened, my teacher would play this song, and every time like it was just magic to me, like, and it resonated. So it's Om Ram Ramaya by Diva Pramal, right? So I'll play it. Okay, so this song, every time that this song gets played in Shavasana, freaky things happen. Alright, so like I said, keep going to yoga, weird Shavasanas, and fast forward one more year after that first experience, I am experiencing a lot of like anxiety because of like grades and school and like preparing for grad school and just like really worrying about the future. Like my brain broke. I was literally like forgetting days. Had you asked me what happened the day before, I couldn't tell you anything. I was forgetting the key code into my apartment. I would be sitting on one page for hours. Like my brain broke. But I was still going to yoga. And I'm sitting here and I go down to Shavasana and I'm like, I need help with this thing. So what happened? Boom! Same thing that happened the year before. This was also like late October, early November. So I was like, boom, palm sweating. I'm breathing hard and heavy. Starts moving down my body. And then, woo, I have a release or, another orgasm. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I am about to be healed. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I'm going to be healed. I took a self-prescribed week off of class because I felt that my body needed that and my mind really needed that. But I was still going to yoga at the rec center. So each day it was, again, like climb up my body, and I kind of got stuck somewhere. And I was like, I'm worried about grades and grad school in the future, and my brain is broke. Like my priorities are not together. But I kept going to yoga, and like it sort of like climbed to my forehead. And once I got to my forehead, I was like, oh my gosh, like I went outside and I saw more detail in the trees. I was walking down the street and like I was like, oh my gosh, like he's hurting, she's hurting, he's hurting, she's hurting. Like, oh my gosh, I love everybody. We're all connected. And like at this time, like my spidey senses were getting a bit more sensitive. So like as far as like I'm, well, everybody's empathic, right? But for me, like I feel everything in my chest. So if I'm like tapping into somebody and it may not be mine, I'll just feel like a different sensation in my chest. I can go into more detail about what that is, but it really freaked me out, and like I was like another worry. And again, I would still have weird shavasanas where that breathing would come and I would get stuck, and I'm just like really, really frustrated at this point. So I call up my cousin, Jill, who's like an encyclopedia of all things esoteric. And I was like, Jill, this is what's happening to me. And then she was like, that sounds like Kundalini. She was like, you should find a Kundalini specialist in your area. And I was like, okay. I Google Kundalini Cincinnati. I find the studio where I trained, and I call up the phone number in the morning, and it's like literally saved as under like this old contact from this girl I went to high school with. Like we never talked. But I'm just like, what? How is this number saved in my phone? Because you know how, like, when you get messages, like, if you don't pay attention to those messages, like, you get beat up. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to check further into the studio. And my yoga teacher, she was, like, advertising for a yoga teacher training. And I was like, I think I should do this because I want to go deeper. I want to find out what's happening to me and really just, like, understand that. So I went to yoga teacher training for 1 year. It was a year-long program for hatha yoga and to be like an Ayurveda holistic coach. So we were there for 52 Tuesdays for like 4 hours. It was great. I have other stories about my experience in teacher training. But again, I'm still like getting stuck to the mat sometimes, and it's really frustrating. So at this point, I decide to stop lying down for Shavasana. Like I quit lying down in Shavasana quite some time ago because it was just it's too much for me. So sometimes like I would go into a just like a regular yoga practice, and sometimes like I leave my body very easily, whatever that means. So like I'll just like really like I get into the breath and then I get stuck. And then I'm just like my body it just feels weird. So I keep going to yoga. And then again, so fast forward, so I started that in what, like February or March of 2014. And fast forward to that October or November, around the same time as the other two times before, I go down for Shavasana, and this time, like, nothing was like as intense as that first time the couple years before. But it's almost like I felt like a cross over my body. And for me, that cross represents Jesus, which to me is like a symbol of devotion. So I took that as like a sign to devote. It's like, Jasmine, you got to devote. And I was like, okay, I will, but I don't know how. So I went to this Unitarian church with my friend Julie, and there's like a call and response reading. And it said, we lift up our hearts in thanks. And one line said, for the food we plant but cannot grow. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I am nobody. I should be grateful for everything. And from then on, I have prayed over every single meal, just because I'm that grateful. Because, you know, like, you can plant all the seeds and, you know, plant all the fruits and vegetables, but even under the most perfect of conditions, so you get the perfect amount of sunlight, perfect amount of rain, you're tending to the soil, blah 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 blah, but there's no like 100% guarantee that that stuff is going to grow. Like, that 0.0000000.1% is God, and for that you should be grateful. And that's when, like, I really started to understand these tools of Ayurveda that I had learned in my teacher training. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, routine helps you sort of like be more stable. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm waking up at the same time every day because I want to show my creator how committed I am to this relationship. And I was like, I'm eating healthier because I want to be a strong and healthy servant for my creator. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit more because I can go into that stuff even deeper. But so that was cool, and I've been more grateful since then. So those were like the three like main like Kundalini experiences. So I still go to yoga classes here and there, but I still get stuck to the mat. And throughout some of that time, like, I visited a Kundalini class, and I saw them doing Breath of Fire one day. It was traumatizing as hell because this was something that I had done spontaneously, and I saw people like intentionally doing that. And I was like, oh my gosh, why would anyone want to do that or have the experiences that I've had with that? So I just went to that one class, and that was it. Don't want to touch Kundalini ever. And then recently, and then also, like, I noticed like a lot of people really love Kundalini yoga. They rave all about it. And I just sort of like, not really warn people, but I do tell people to proceed with caution, because Kundalini, or at least what I think to be Kundalini, is and can be very powerful, and people should be, you know, more aware of what they're dealing with and what they are trying to awaken. So I find this woman, Salama, who teaches at this place here in Cincinnati, and she's a Kundalini yoga teacher, and she also happened to train at the studio where I trained for her 200 RYT. So anyway, like, we're talking because, like, I'm not going to go into anybody's Kundalini class unless I have a conversation with them first and I feel comfortable. So I had a conversation with her, and I went to this yoga class, and I mean, I have like a really funny Snapchat story about this experience. So I'm in this yoga class, and we're, you know, doing this and all this other stuff, all the different kinds of Kundalini breathing, and we're breaking the chains. And I literally have about like 5 orgasms in this class. I have no idea why. Don't know what's going on. Also, another addition too. Sometimes, like, when I have sex, like, maybe even like at orgasm or something, like, it's almost like the energy will like shoot up to my head, and then like my body will just like feel really weird. Like, I have to get grounded, and like I don't know where I am. So that happens during sex sometimes. I'm trying to think of like any other like energetic things that I should mention. So recently, maybe I think it was like last week, I went to a prenatal yoga training. And it was amazing. It was awesome. But part of this sequence that we had to learn, there was a Kundalini breath associated with that. And this breath was the basically the rules or the instructions were to place your tongue at the roof of your mouth. Key point, right? Key point, place your tongue at the roof of your mouth. And basically like close your eyes, bring your awareness or your attention to your third eye, and inhale. So inhale through your nose, exhale through your nose. Inhale through your mouth, exhale through your mouth. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. Inhale through your mouth, exhale through your nose. And we would have to do like 3 to 5 rounds of that. So I did it with this one girl, and I forgot to stick my tongue at the roof of my mouth. And after literally like 2 or 3 rounds of that breathing, like my arms were tingling. And not really tingling, but like my arms were feeling funny. And I was about to I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm about to have an orgasm. And I don't know what's going on. And then during that training, I went down for Shavasana, knowing darn well I shouldn't have. And I get stuck again. So I'm sitting there and I'm just like really frustrated because I've been dealing with this for nearly about 5 years now, and no one, so no Kundalini teacher, no Kundalini master, nobody that I have interacted with who knows anything about Kundalini is able to even like share any sort of insight or understand what I'm dealing with. And I'm getting like very emotional right now because one, like I don't understand why anyone would ever want to do any Kundalini breathing. And I'm frustrated because this is something I've been dealing with, and I feel I'm alone. Like I do Google searches, YouTube searches, there's books, like I don't know what to look for. Like I'm getting stuck to the mat. Like I don't know. Like I go down for Shavasana, I feel some pressure. I might get some intense breathing, and maybe like depending on if I'm in a class, someone will come and like swing my feet or something. But I'm alone. And I hope that this is enough information to share. So hopefully, if any of you all have any tips or resources or anything, like I don't do any like Kundalini breathing myself. I don't practice Kundalini yoga, nor do I want to. I mean, I might be interested in a teacher training only to go deeper because I realize, and what I'm thinking is that like I have to figure out a way to harness this energy and this power in order to use it for things. Again, so and then also sometimes, so in addition to being like, empathic and feeling everything in my chest, sometimes like I'm like a filter person. Like I call myself a filter. So like so usually like I push it away because it's too much stress for me. It's too much to worry about. But like if I'm in that phase or whatever, like I may touch someone's hand, and I may touch hands, right? And then I'll just like, I'll cry. And then people might be like, why are you crying? And I'm like, I don't know. But sometimes like I cry when the other person can't. But I don't do that stuff often because like I'm so tired of like all of this, like this chest stuff, this crying stuff, me getting stuck to the mat and being alone. But I feel like maybe this Kundalini stuff is like calling for me to, again, harness this and use it to like actually develop some skills or something. But yeah, that's my problem. This is what's going on with me. And I hope that by sharing this video, someone else might be able to say, hey, like I've experienced that, or you might be able to share some resources. So thank you, and namaste. you can contact me at healandbuild@gmail.com. That's HEAL, letter N, BUILD @gmail.com. Again, I'm Jasmine, and thank you for your time.